Hey guys, Defcamp here, and what a ride it has been so far. Classic WoW demo, Classic announced to be launched in the summer of 2019. We've also had these Blizzcon panels or these discussions about Classic where they've done a deep dive talking about what they have done to create Classic, what they still continue to plan on doing, and they also gave us a lot of insight into the game. But as you guys know, or may not know, I streamed the demo, and during that stream, and during probably everyone else's stream, there was a lot of issues with the demo. Sharding, there was new animations, there was a lot of things. Items that should not be in the game. The list goes on, and we'll talk more about them in this video. So we actually started this video a couple days ago, and it was just going to be about the demo. But since then, I have flown to Kansas to be with my brother Melderon, and a lot more has been discussed. So we're going to be doing an overall recap of everything in the last couple days about Classic WoW, at BlizzCon, at the demo. We're going to be doing it all here, guys, so stay tuned. There's going to be a lot of information in this video. You're going to want to catch it all. Alright, let's start with the demo and our thoughts on it. Guys, no, this is not a private server. This is the Classic WoW demo. And boy, oh boy, do we have a lot to say about it. Right now, you see us here. We are looking at Westfall. And the first thing you may notice is that it looks a lot prettier than the original Classic WoW that we remember. And this is with the Classic settings enabled. So, let us go into the system and put the graphics to max and see what it looks like. So we are brought to a very BFA looking Classic WoW. As you see, the character itself is not the new character, it is the old character model, but some of the animations are not the original Classic WoW animations. Guys, it took me a little bit to notice this. If you go back and watch my stream, I was really hype at first. I kind of let that hype get to my head, and I didn't notice some of these things at first. So let us go ahead and look at some of these spell animations. If you look at the wand, you see the fluid motion of that wand. That is not a Classic WoW animation. And maybe you're saying to yourself, oh, well, you don't have the Classic setting enabled, that's why. No, unfortunately, that is not why. Let's go ahead and enable that setting real quick. Go to Classic. And as you will see here, it is the same wanding animation. This is not the only thing. I wish it was, but it's not. Melderon and I have created a list while we were streaming, and I'll go over that list with you guys right now. And while I'm saying it, I might show you some of the things that we're talking about. So, first and foremost, guys, the most important thing is where the hell's the keyring? Seriously, we were not able to see a keyring even when we got a key. Other people had the same issue. Don't know if that was an oversight or not, but no keyring. A lot of people were saying that the run speed seemed faster. I still have not been able to prove this. To me, personally, it seems normal. I don't really see a difference in the run speed, but I did, however, notice that the regen of my mana and health was a bit off, and we'll show you real quick what we mean. So real quick, let's use some mana here. Just throw some heals out. Okay, and here we have the numbers here, which also is something new. As you can see, the UI is very new looking. So here we go to 285 to 307, 307 to 329, 329 to 352, 352 to 374, 396, and so on. The mana regen, some people seem faster, but I can tell you first and foremost that the mana regen is not correct. Also, the rogue energy regen was not correct. Another thing we noticed that we were very afraid of, that unfortunately did happen in the demo, is sharding. Really?
Yeah, why would you get rid of the keyring?
Well, no, that must be a mistake, because...
Well, but why would you get rid of... Even if they got rid of the keyring, why the hell would you do that? What's the point?
I just got transported to another realm. I just sharded.
You did?
If you guys don't know what sharding is, basically you're on one server, but you're being put into different sections and different groups, just running along, doing their own thing, and there were people around us, and there's mobs around us, and all of a sudden they disappear, and new mobs appear, new people appear. I'm going to say this now, and I'll say it again. This is, of course, the demo. A lot of these things could change, and probably some of them will change by the time Classic comes out, but I want to make these things noted so that whoever sees this video can say, these are the things that were wrong with the demo, let's get them fixed for Classic. Another thing, guys, if you notice, when we attack mobs, we get a debuff timer, which was not in vanilla, and I'll show you what I mean by that timer. It's not a number, but what it is here is this little time scale that goes down like a clock hand, and it goes down to the cycle when the dot is finished. This was not in vanilla, and also we have timers on our buffs here. You know, a lot of these things you can see when you look at somebody, you can see the time left of the buffs. You cannot see that back in vanilla when you have the target. Another thing, guys, is if you right target, you can hit move frames, unlock frames, lock frames, and just simply move frames around easily without the add-on move anything, which you had to use back in the day. That was not how it was in WoW. Another thing, guys, we look and go to our system interface options, and we go to raid profiles, we'll notice that, yes, there are raid frames. And I will show you now the clip in when I was streaming, when I went into a group and saw what the raid frames looked like. They look essentially the same as they did in Legion and BFA. I really haven't played BFA that much, so I'll just refer to Legion because that's what I was familiar with. And yeah, they pretty much look like Legion raid frame. Basically something you're going to see recurring here, guys. It seemed like they rushed this demo. They tried to get it out as quick as possible, and they overlooked certain things. Like, type in \LFR. Oh, what is this lovely little thing that comes up when I just type that in? Dungeon Finder. Oh no. Of course, this doesn't work, and I would argue that this has just been left in the game by mistake, but when so many people are triggered by those 3 letters, LFR, why would you leave this in there? You know, I gotta say, Blizzard, not a good idea. And I'm trying to be as nice as I can here. This was not a good move. And, you know, obviously, this feature becomes available at level 85. Of course, you can hit level 85 in Classic. Hopefully they didn't change that as well. Sorry. But yeah, obviously this has probably been left in the game, as well as GF, so Guild Finder is in here. Another thing that some other people noticed, at level 17, they got in a group and they went to a meeting stone and they were able to summon using the meeting stone. Oh, what's wrong with that, Defcamp? What's wrong with it is that the only way you could summon in vanilla was by using a warlock. That was it. Meeting stones were there essentially for show. Another thing I just want to show you here, guys. If you see find herbs here, it actually gives you a buff to find herbs, which is not how it was in vanilla. I just find that interesting. That's how they decided to do it. And the same thing with mining, find minerals. It gives you that little buff. Auto loot, of course. A lot of us were kind of expecting this. If you go into interface options, controls, you can see auto loot is right here, and I just have that unclick because I'm so used to just hitting shift right click and auto looting that way. So another thing, guys, is itemization stats. So if you guys weren't aware, you know, back in the day, and I think they still have them in the game, is they had gear like of the tiger, of the owl, of the boar, and one of them was called, you know, of the tiger, which initially back in vanilla gave strength and agility. But someone got a piece of the tiger, and instead of giving strength and agility, it gave strength and crit. Now, there was crit in vanilla, but there was not crit on level 15 gear, level 12. There wasn't crit until on gear way higher. That was something that was probably left over from the client that somehow, you know, ended up here in the demo. Another thing, guys, you know, it wasn't just, like I said, we talked about the animations. It's not just priests. It's pretty much every class. Hunters, priests, that's rogues. I've basically played only a few classes, but from everyone, what I've heard, a lot of these animations, some of them might be small, as you see here, as you see he winds up the wand. That is not at all how it was in vanilla. And another thing is, you notice here, when I turn to the side, the character actually turns his torso towards the target, and you know, it's, you know, in effect it makes it look more realistic. But however, that was not the case in vanilla. The guy pretty much would just turn sideways and face that way and just wand in that direction when the mob was in front of it. It didn't look right, but I mean, that's the way it was, you know. Another thing I noticed was some of the sounds were not vanilla-like. One was I'm too far away from the undead. Didn't sound the way it did in vanilla. It sounded more in the BFA sound, and that could have been something that they just missed. Maybe I didn't hear it right. But also, as you can hear here, I'll have in a clip in a second. You hear that sound of the bow hitting flesh? Yeah, that was not in vanilla. Obviously, it's a new sound, probably left over. Hopefully, will be taken out. We don't know, but it shouldn't be there. Another thing, guys, is something that was very sad for me to find out, and I hope this was just something they overlooked. But you guys know in vanilla priests, every race had something different. So, for example, here as a dwarf, I don't have it yet, but you would have Desperate Prayer. I'm not sure what level you would get that. You had Desperate Prayer, and then you would have Fear Ward, which arguably is the best priest racial. But on my undead priest, I noticed that at level 10, I should have had something called Touch of Weakness. One of the priest abilities, someone would hit you and the curse would go on the target that hits you. And it would decrease their attack damage by a small amount. That was completely missing from the game. It was not there. And I would like to know if anyone else had noticed any of the other priest abilities, if they were missing or not. Please comment on this video and let me know, because I am very interested in that. Some other small things, guys, well, not too small actually. Shamans, in order to use two-handed maces or axes, you have to be talented in that. You can use two-handed you can use staves at the start, but you can't use two-handed maces or axes until you get the talent. Apparently that wasn't needed in classic demo. You could just equip a two-handed mace or two-handed axe and go on your merry way. Another thing was, when you give yourself fort, it should put your health down for a second and then start regenerating the amount of health that the fort gave you. So here you see I have 317 health. I give myself fort, it goes instantly up to 397 without regenerating any of that health. How's that possible? I don't know. Guys, all this stuff together, there's other things like, you know, while swimming, the guy you hit the space bar and he's supposed to kind of teeter up and almost jump in a way, kind of in the water, and in this demo it doesn't do that. You just kind of fluidly rise when you hit the spacebar. There were some other things that I noticed, little sounds here and there. Right click, move character frames, like I said here, right click, reset all instances. They used to have to use the macro for that. These are things that we kind of were expecting, but you know, all the other things, guys, we were definitely not expecting, like the animations, like the missing spells. These are really big things, guys, and I gotta be 100% real with you. It worries me. Okay, guys, so now let's talk about what was said at BlizzCon regarding Classic WoW. They had an event called Restoring History, Creating Classic WoW, which introduced the developers of Classic WoW and gave us a look at how the undertaking of Classic WoW has progressed over time. And I think this, honestly, is probably the most important information we've had about Classic, even more so than the demo, since Classic has been announced. They really gave us a look at what they tried to do with Classic and what they still plan on doing. They really brought home the fact that Classic is not done. The demo was, I believe, rushed, and that's why we saw a lot of things still in the demo, but they wanted to give people an idea of what it was going to be like. But this talk that they had here, I think will give some of you guys a little bit more insight into what Classic will look like in the summer of 2019. So let's go over that. So first things first, they had Omar Gonzalez come out, who is the senior software engineer. And this guy, Omar, if you don't know who he is, he started working back with Blizzard back in 2003, worked on original vanilla. He started talking about what it takes to make Classic, and those three things is database data, art assets, and the source code. So the first thing they had to deal with was the database data. And in looking back, their database, they found that they still did have data from 1.12 and some of the patches before that. However, those weren't full, but they did have 1.12. The art assets, however, they were only able to find the art assets by finding a backup within a backup, and that's how they found the 1.12 art assets. Now they were trying to reconstruct. So this is actually the information before that watercolor that came out when they introduced that they're going to be working with the 7.5 code. This is before that. They actually initially tried to create Classic from the ground up, and that did not work. This version, it did not run in their modern Blizzard cloud, so they weren't able to integrate it into their technology that they have now. It was unable to launch into Battle.net, there were no login servers, and there was no customer support access, and all the exploits and hacks could be reactivated. So they hit a wall here. The solution was to do this. Take the modern data, the art, and the source code, throw away anything that's not classic, that's not vanilla, and then add in the 1.12 data, the 1.12 art, and the 1.12 source code into that. That is when, I think initially when they saw that this was working, that's when they announced that watercolor and said, hey guys, this is how we're going to be doing it. And then after that, they introduced the lead engineer, who is Brian Birmingham, and he has been working with Blizzard since 2006. He was on the tools team back in the day. He did work on Nax. He drove home something pretty cool, which I liked. He says that Classic is not a side project, and it is and does have the full support of the WoW team. He went over some of the challenges they had, such as the terrain. There were a lot of things mixed together, some 1.12, some 7.3.5, so it looked like there was a lot of work that needed to be done. But luckily, they said that a lot of that 1.12 data that they brought in there with the new technology that they had, that they were able to patch it in there and get rid of that extra 7.3.5 stuff. But they did still have some problems with animations, and he did state, however, that all the animations were now working correctly. I don't know if he was speaking about something in particular here. I went back and watched it, and he just said at one point, all the animations are working correctly. But obviously they're not. In the demo we see Dwarf Wand animation, which is clearly a very fluid animation that is not the stiff animation that we had back in vanilla. So maybe that's something they can re-look at and see that the animations are not working as they should be. But he also talked about that there won't be a pixel per pixel perfect perfection, but they want to get as close as possible. So maybe that's what they mean with that. I hope that they will try to go a little bit more into it and try to make it more vanilla-like. But we should see. We'll see. Okay. Next, they brought out Ian Hazzikostas, and he went over the design philosophy of Classic. And first he said they want to deliver an authentic experience as much as possible. He then talked about the high priority and integrity of social dynamics. Now, this is something that Ian kind of drove home and said that this is the social aspect of the game is very important to Classic, right? You want to go around and you want to see people, you want to know who they are, and you want to recognize people from your server and talk to people and kind of have that vanilla, just basic social experience that you don't have in the game anymore. But something I noticed that they didn't talk about was the fact that summoning stones were working on the demo. And I don't know if this was something that was left over from the 7.3 assets that just was in there still that they didn't get rid of. However, we don't know. No one talked about this at all during BlizzCon that I heard. And but he did say that they want to avoid messing with the 1.12 data. So if I had to guess, guys, I would say that that was something that was left over that should have been taken out, like the LFR, like the Guild Finder. And Ian went over some of the decisions that were clear cut, like of course no Dungeon Finder or Finder, but he did address the fact that LFR was working on the demo. He said it should not have been working. It was something because of those leftover things that were just bound to happen, he said. But I think they did probably rush this demo a little bit too much. That's why we had things like that still in the game. But he did mention that it of course will not be in the game. Also, cross-realm grouping, he said, will never be a part of vanilla. Now, he didn't say that that doesn't mean cross-realm battlegrounds. I don't know if that's what he's trying to say here, but cross-realm grouping, so you'll never be able to group up with someone on a different server and do a quest, or group up with someone on a different server and do a dungeon or a raid. Then he went into some of the things that were, very, I don't think anyone expected there to be flying in Classic, but just in case you were, Ian said that there will be no flying, there will be no achievements, and there will be no unified auction house. That means no auction house that is Horde and Alliance. Just the Horde auction house, the Alliance auction house, and then of course you have your auction house like in Gadgetsin, that kind of thing, which is neutral. Now, he went over the debuff limit, and he stated that it was a technical issue at the time. However, I want to say this, guys. It was a technical issue at the time that they could only have first 8 debuff slots, then 16. However, the raid design teams designed the raids around that fact. They knew that there were only 8 debuff slots, and they made the mechanics and fights accordingly. So I hope that they know that, and I talked to some other people. I talked to Taladro, I talked to Ale, and I tried to say, guys, did you hear anything about them saying, are they having 16 debuff slots in all of vanilla, or did they just say that will be the limit? No one really was able to answer that question. They just said that from what they just heard 16 debuff slots for Classic, and that was it. So after that, he talked about the mail. There will be no instant mail like there is in retail. You'll have to wait your hour. Some slight differences, he said, was going to be in the UI. So if you guys didn't notice, there are raid frames in the UI. That is not something that was left over. That is something that will be changed. There will be the new UI effects of the raid. So when you go and join a raid, you have that little icon on the left. You'll be able to do your ready check. You'll be able to move your raid group around in the frame right there. And it also has the raid marks right there as well. So that is all new, and that will be remaining. And also some of the new UI functions, such as taking your mail out a lot quicker, those kind of things. I'm guessing he meant like left click, right click in the auction house, those kind of things. Some of the small UI, which you could call quality of life changes. A big change here, which, I mean, no matter if it's a good change or not, it's still a big change, is the loot trade. So yes, you can need on something by accident and then trade it with someone, essentially getting rid of ninja looting. Well, I mean, people can still ninja loot, I guess, if you're going to be doing, say, Major Domo and someone just steals the chest and just doesn't want to trade it with anybody. You can still ninja in a way, but however, accidental ninjaing will be a thing of the past in Classic WoW. And he talked about energy regen. So back in the old days, the energy regen was a lot different than it is now, but they will be restoring those old energy regen. Now let's talk about add-ons. There will be no autoplay add-ons. What does that mean? In private servers, if you're not aware, there are some add-ons that you can make or download that basically play the game for you. Some would call decursive an autoplay add-on, so I do believe decursive will not work in Classic, which I think is a good thing. But it even goes further than that. There were some add-ons that I even saw people using in private servers, which basically would target the person that had the lowest health and choose the heal that was most efficient for that person and basically do the whole thing for you. He did say, however, they will be skeptical about add-ons reproducing some of the functionality that they removed from Classic. Now we get down to the juicy part, the content release plan. So, Stage 1 in the content release plan goes as following. Molten Core, Ani, DM, and World Bosses. No PvP rewards at this point. Stage 2 will be BWL, BGs, PvP rewards, and ZG. I had to go back and listen to that again because he did say BGs and not just PvP rewards. Stage 3 will be AQ, the AQ opening event, Green Dragons. Stage 4 will be Nax Scourge event, and dates will be to be determined. Let me talk about this for a second, guys. So Stage 1 doesn't mean all at once. I don't think they just mean Ani, MC, DM, World Bosses all at once. That could mean that. But if you go down to Stage 3, it says AQ and AQ event in the same stage. There's no way people are going to be doing the AQ event while AQ is open. So this must mean that they kind of group these stages together in time frames that will be close to each other. So what I'm thinking, guys, is that MC Ani will be at launch. Soon after will follow DM and then World Bosses. I don't know. That could be completely wrong. But BWL and BGs at the same patch, that means a long time waiting for BGs, unless they plan on releasing the BWL and ZG patch, which weren't patched together, by the way, back in Classic, not that far after MC. So this is a lot of speculation still. I think we need a lot of information, and I think they actually want to talk to the community about this. So this is something that we want to be talking about, guys. So I know some people are making some videos about proposed content progression. I think that's a great idea, guys. That's why I'm making this video. I want to bring this to attention. I want to bring this to light and talk about everything that happened, because they really are going to be looking at the community's response. And I want to do it in a way where I can offer some constructive criticism. Guys, I want to say what is my overall thoughts about all of this. First and foremost, I 100% believe that the demo was rushed. However, my initial thoughts that I had the demo were very negative. I saw what I saw and I got really upset. I saw the animations, I saw the sharding, I saw the items that should not have been there, I saw the summoning, I saw the the regen that was too fast, a lot of things that were off. However, after hearing this, and after hearing they had a Q&A where they mentioned a few things, someone asked about sharding and how will that be implemented in Classic, and Ian said that sharding is something that is essentially not good for Classic. It's not what we want to see in Classic. However, they do think sharding will work well at the launch, because private servers, they had something else that they brought to combat the mass amount of people playing at launch, which was dynamic respawning. Now, dynamic respawning, of course, that isn't a Classic-like or vanilla-like thing. It's something that they added afterwards. It really made the game not fun or not playable, because you would have mobs spawning out of nowhere, chasing you all around, killing you, people all over the place. I think sharding would be a better way to combat that, as long as it only is in the very beginning of the launch of vanilla. So one of the most important things to me that I was waiting to hear was anything about progressive itemization, which is the itemization change throughout the course of vanilla. They mentioned nothing during the panel, nothing during the Q&A, and I heard nothing about it. So that's something we're going to have to keep an eye out for, and hopefully we get some information about that. But I wanted to drive home the fact that they really wanted to say that they still have a ways to go with this, guys. Classic is in no way done, and I think it is now up to us. The ball is in our court. We have to give our response to Blizzard and say, this is right, this is wrong, this is what we don't want, this is what we want. And I really think that they are at least trying. I do. They still have a long ways to go. They still have a lot of things to do. There's still a lot of backporting that they need to do. There's still a lot of old resource code that they have to get rid of. And there's still a lot of 1.12 data that they have to put back in to that code. So guys, I would not give up hope just yet. In fact, I would still go as far as saying that we should be hyped. I do believe that Classic will be a success. Can Classic pull this off? Yes, I think they can. But I think they got ways to go, and they're going to have to work with the community on this. Guys, it's up to us now. The ball's in our court. Let's show Blizzard what we want, and let's do it in a way that is constructive and respectful, and I think they will listen. So until next time, guys, this is Defcamp signing out. Peace.